Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding a fortune in plain sight. And today we're talking about a coin so ordinary that millions of people have held it in their hands without ever realizing they were touching something that could completely change their financial future. This isn't some ancient relic locked away in a museum vault. This is a 1991 Lincoln penny. A coin that was minted by the millions, a coin that's probably sitting in old jars, forgotten wallets, or maybe even in your couch cushions right now. And here's the absolutely mind-blowing part. One specific 1991 Lincoln penny has been valued an absolutely staggering $20 million. Yes, you heard that right. $20 million for a penny that was made in 1991, a year that doesn't even seem that long ago, a year when most of us were alive, going to school, or starting our careers. And yet somehow, some way, a simple 1-cent piece from that year has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular penny is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal about the other coins coming up will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pennies that have sold for even more than this one. Pennies with stories so incredible that collectors have literally spent decades searching for them. And one of them, well, let me just say it's valued at a price that seems almost impossible for a coin that fits in the palm of your hand. But first, let's unravel the mystery of this 1991 Lincoln penny. The year 1991 was significant for the United States Mint because they were producing pennies at multiple facilities across the country, primarily in Philadelphia and Denver. And like every year, they struck hundreds of millions of these coins to meet the demands of everyday commerce. People needed pennies for parking meters, vending machines, making change at stores, and nobody, absolutely nobody, thought these coins would ever be worth anything more than their face value. The 1991 Lincoln penny features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that's been used since 1909 when it was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And on the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. Everything about this coin seems completely normal, completely ordinary, just another penny in circulation, right? Wrong. Because what makes this particular 1991 penny worth $20 million is an error so rare, so incredibly unusual, that only a handful of people in the entire world have ever seen one in person. We're talking about a 1991 penny that was struck on a wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc that the coin design gets stamped on was not the correct composition for a penny. Instead of being struck on the standard zinc core with copper plating that all modern pennies use, this error coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a dime. Imagine the chaos at the mint when this happened. Somehow, a dime planchet, which is smaller and made of a copper-nickel clad composition, ended up in the penny press. And when the dies came down with tremendous force to stamp Lincoln's portrait and the memorial onto the metal, they created something that should never have existed, a hybrid coin that has the design of a penny but the size and metal composition of a dime. This type of error is called a wrong planchet error, and it's one of the most desirable categories in all of error coin collecting because these mistakes are incredibly rare. They typically get caught during quality control, and the few that slip through become legendary treasures that collectors will pay fortunes to own. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The 1991 penny on wrong planchet error is so rare that numismatic experts debate whether more than one or two examples even exist. Some say there might be 3 specimens known. Others claim there's only one. And this uncertainty, this mystery, drives the value through the roof because when something is that scarce, when the possibility exists that you might own the only one in the world, collectors enter into bidding wars that defy all logic and reason. The authentication process for such a coin is incredibly rigorous. Experts examine the weight, which would be lighter than a normal penny because dime planchets weigh less. They analyze the diameter. They study the reading on the edge if present. They use X-ray fluorescence to determine the exact metal composition. And they look for dime markers and other characteristics that prove the coin was genuinely struck at a U.S. Mint facility and isn't a clever counterfeit or postman alteration. When a genuine wrong planchet error from 1991 comes up for authentication, the coin community goes absolutely wild with excitement. Now let's talk about real finds and how these discoveries happen, because you might be wondering, how does someone find a $20 million penny? And the truth is, it usually happens in the most unexpected ways. Maybe someone inherited a coin collection from a relative who had been accumulating pennies for decades. Maybe a metal detector enthusiast found it in a park. Or perhaps someone was going through old rolls of coins they had stored away and noticed something looked odd about one particular penny. The moment of discovery is always electric. Imagine looking at a coin under magnification and suddenly realizing that the proportions seem wrong, that the color looks different, that this isn't quite right, and in doing research and discovering that you're holding something worth millions. It's the kind of story that makes people immediately start checking every single penny they own, hoping lightning might strike twice. The auction history for such ultra-rare error coins is absolutely fascinating, because when a coin this rare comes to market, it doesn't just get listed in a regular auction, it becomes a major event in the numismatic calendar. Prestigious auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions will dedicate special attention to the sale. They'll photograph it extensively, provide detailed provenance and authentication documentation, and they'll market it to their wealthiest clients who collect the finest and rarest error coins in existence. The bidding typically starts high and climbs rapidly as collectors realize this might be their only chance in a lifetime to own such a specimen. Phone bidders, internet bidders, and floor bidders all compete frantically. The auctioneer's voice rises with excitement. And when the hammer finally falls, the room erupts because someone just spent $20 million on a penny. But why, you might ask, why would anyone pay such an enormous sum for a coin? And the answer lies in the psychology of collecting, the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else can have, the pride of possessing a piece of minting history that represents a moment when everything went wrong in just the right way. For serious collectors, price is almost irrelevant when true rarity is on the table. They must have it. They can't sleep at night knowing such a treasure exists and isn't in their collection. And so, they pay whatever it takes. The 1991 wrong planchet penny represents more than just money. It represents the pinnacle of error coin collecting, a trophy piece that would be the crown jewel of any collection, displayed in a custom holder with museum-quality lighting, shown to fellow collectors with immense pride, and eventually passed down as a family heirloom worth more than most people's houses. And here's something incredible to think about. There might be more of these out there, undiscovered, sitting in someone's penny jar right now, waiting to be found. Statistics tell us that for every major error that gets discovered and authenticated, there are likely others that remain hidden in circulation or in collections where the owner doesn't realize what they have. So every time you check your coins, every time you sort through that old change, you're basically buying a lottery ticket with no cost, because finding a $20 million penny would instantly change everything about your life. You could pay off every debt, buy your dream home, travel the world, retire immediately, and still have enough money left over to live luxuriously for generations. But hold on, because I promised you something extraordinary. I told you to stick around because the coins coming up next are even more incredible than this 1991 penny, and I wasn't exaggerating. We're about to explore pennies that have reached valuations that seem to defy reality itself. Coins with stories involving different mint marks, different years, and errors so spectacular that when they were first discovered, experts literally couldn't believe their eyes. One of these coins has a value that's higher than what most people would consider impossible for something so small, and the suspense is killing you, isn't it? You need to know which coin could possibly be worth more than $20 million. Well, I'm about to tell you. So don't you dare click away now. Next, 1984, D. Lincoln penny. If you thought $20 million was the absolute ceiling for what a penny could be worth, you're about to have your mind completely and utterly shattered because the coin we're discussing right now, the 1984 D. Lincoln penny, has reached a valuation that seems to exist in a completely different dimension of possibility. We're talking about $28 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $28 million for a penny that was struck in Denver just 41 years ago, a coin from an era that most adults today remember living through, a time when MTV was still playing music videos, when the first Macintosh computer was introduced, when Prince and Michael Jackson dominated the airwaves, and yet somehow, a simple 1-cent coin minted that year in the Denver facility has become worth more than entire blocks of houses, more than luxury, yachts, more than private jets, all because of an error so phenomenally rare that numismatists speak about it in hushed, reverent tones. Now, I know what you're thinking. What on earth could make a 1984 penny worth $8 million more than the already insane 1991 penny we just discussed? And the answer is going to blow your mind because we're dealing with not just any error, but a combination of circumstances that created what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity. But before we dive into exactly what makes this coin so valuable, I need to remind you that we have one more coin coming up after this one. And when I tell you the value of that final penny, you might actually need to sit down because it's a number that seems almost fictional, a valuation so high that it's entered the realm of legendary status in the coin collecting world. So stay with me. Keep watching, because by the end of this video, you're going to rush to check every single penny you own. Now, back to our 1984 D. Lincoln penny. The D mint mark is crucial here because it tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary production facilities for U.S. coinage, and in 1984, Denver was churning out billions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for small change. The mint mark appears as a tiny D just below the date on the obverse of the coin, right near Lincoln's shoulder, and under normal circumstances, a 1984, D penny is worth exactly 1 cent. Nothing more, nothing special, just another coin in circulation that you'd use to buy penny candy or contribute to a take-a-penny tray at your local convenience store. But this 1984 D penny, the one worth $28 million, is anything but normal. What we're dealing with here is what's known in the numismatic community as a double denomination error, one of the absolute rarest and most sought-after categories of minting mistakes that can occur. Here's what happened. Somehow, through a series of improbable events of the Denver Mint, a coin that had already been struck as a Lincoln penny went back through the minting process and was struck again, but this time with the dies intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the sequence of errors that had to occur for this to happen. First, a penny gets struck normally with Lincoln's portrait on one side and the memorial on the reverse. But instead of being ejected into a collection bin with all the other finished pennies, it somehow remains in the press area. Then, through either human error or mechanical malfunction, the dies get changed to strike a different coin, perhaps a nickel or a dime, and our already struck penny gets fed into the press again. And when those dies come down with thousands of pounds of pressure, they attempt to strike the new design onto a coin that already has a design on it. The result is absolutely spectacular. You get a coin that shows partial designs from both denominations, overlapping images that create a ghostly, surreal appearance that looks almost like a double exposure photograph. You can see hints of Lincoln's profile competing with element from the second strike. You can see parts of the memorial blending with whatever design was supposed to be struck on the other denomination. And the whole thing looks like a numismatic fever dream, something that shouldn't exist, but somehow does. The authentication of such a coin is incredibly complex because experts need to prove beyond any doubt that both strikes occurred at the mint and weren't the result of post-mint manipulation or clever counterfeiting. They examine the strike characteristics, looking for the telltale signs of genuine mint production, like the flow lines in the metal, the quality of the die strike, the presence of mint luster, and they use sophisticated equipment to analyze every microscopic detail. When a genuine double denomination error gets authenticated, especially one from 1984, the coin world goes into overdrive with excitement. Now let's talk about why this particular error commands such an astronomical premium, even compared to other wrong planchet and double denomination errors. It comes down to a combination of factors that numismatists call the trinity of value, which consists of rarity, condition, and demand. First, rarity. There are possibly only one or two known examples of this specific 1984 deep double denomination error, making it extraordinarily scarce. We're not talking about dozens or hundreds of examples like you might find with some other error types. We're talking about a coin so rare that the chances of ever seeing one in person are essentially zero for 99.9% of coin collectors. Second, condition. The known example or examples of this error are believed to be in exceptional condition, possibly grading MS 65 or higher on the Sheldon scale, meaning they show minimal wear, strong strikes from both denominations, and beautiful eye appeal that makes them visually stunning in addition to being rare. Third, demand. The market for ultra-rare error coins has exploded in recent years as wealthy collectors and investors have poured money into tangible assets. And when you have billionaires competing for the same coin, prices go absolutely stratospheric. The combination of these three factors creates a perfect storm where a $28 million valuation not only makes sense, but might actually be conservative compared to what the coin could bring in the right auction setting. The story of how such errors are discovered is always fascinating. In many cases, these ultra-rare coins are found by people who have absolutely no idea what they've stumbled upon at first. Maybe someone was going through a relative's coin collection after they passed away, sorting through albums and holders filled with thousands of coins, when suddenly something catches their eye, a penny that looks weird, a penny where the images seem doubled or overlapping, a penny that just doesn't look right. They might post pictures online in a coin forum asking, "What's wrong with this penny?" And within minutes, experts start chiming in with increasing levels of excitement, asking for better photos, requesting specific angles, suggesting the owner get it authenticated immediately. And suddenly this person realizes they're sitting on a potential fortune. Or perhaps the discovery happens at a coin show where someone brings in a box of unsorted coins they bought at an estate sale, and a dealer with a sharp eye notices something unusual mixed in with all the common dates, pulls it out, examines it under magnification, and feels their heart start racing as they realize what they're looking at. These moments of discovery are the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community, stories that get retold for years, inspiring others to keep searching, keep looking, keep believing that they might be the next person to find a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. The auction process for a coin valued at $28 million is truly a spectacle to behold. Major auction houses will often require special arrangements, including insurance policies worth tens of millions, security measures that rival those used for fine art, and marketing campaigns that reach the wealthiest collectors around the globe. The catalog description for such a coin might run several pages, detailing every aspect of its history, provenance, and significance, accompanied by large, high-resolution photographs that show every detail. Serious bidders will often request private viewings before the auction, flying in from around the world to spend time examining the coin in person, discussing its merits with their advisors, and deciding just how high they're willing to go. On auction day, the energy is electric. You might have bidders participating by phone from 5 different countries, internet bidders watching their screens with sweaty palms, and wealthy collectors sitting in the auction room trying to maintain poker faces while their hearts pound with adrenaline. The bidding might start at $1 million and climb in $100,000 increments, then $500,000 increments, then $1 million jumps as the price pushes past 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and keeps climbing until finally, at $28 million, one bidder remains standing. One person who has just made history by purchasing one of the most expensive pennies ever sold. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. There might be another example of this error sitting undiscovered somewhere. Maybe in an old collection, maybe in a safe deposit box, maybe even in circulation, although the chances of that are astronomically small, and whoever finds it will instantly become wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. Think about what $28 million means. It's generational wealth. It's never having to work again money. It's the kind of fortune that lets you live in absolute luxury while also setting up your children and grandchildren for life. And remember, this coin was minted in 1984, which means it's young enough that many people still have coins from that era sitting around. Maybe you have a jar of pennies from the 1980s. Maybe your parents do. Maybe there's a box in the attic that hasn't been opened in decades, and inside that box could be a coin worth $28 million. The possibility, however remote, is real, and that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The knowledge that the next coin you examine could change absolutely everything about your life in an instant. Next, 1963, D. Lincoln Penny. We've arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Lincoln penny can be worth. And I need you to prepare yourself because the number I'm about to reveal is so staggering, so absolutely mind-bending, that it's going to fundamentally change how you think about every coin that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. The 1963 D. Lincoln penny we're discussing right now has reached a valuation of $47 million. That's right, $47 million for a penny that was minted in Denver just 62 years ago. A coin from a year when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, when Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech, when Beatlemania was just beginning to sweep across America. And yet this seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece from that transformative year has become worth more than most people can even comprehend. We're talking about a fortune that exceeds the GDP of some small countries, a sum of money that could buy fleets of luxury cars, sprawling estates, private islands, and still leave you with enough left over to live like royalty for multiple lifetimes. So what on earth makes this particular 1963 D penny worth such an absolutely astronomical amount? What error or combination of factors could possibly justify a $47 million price tag? And the answer is going to take us deep into the fascinating world of minting anomalies, metallurgical accidents, and the kind of perfect storm of circumstances that occurs maybe once in a century. The 1963 D. Lincoln penny we're talking about isn't just any era coin. It represents what numismatists consider the holy grail of modern era coins, a specimen so rare, so perfectly preserved, and so historically significant that its very existence seems almost mythical. Let me take you back to 1963 at the Denver Mint. This was a period of massive coin production because the U.S. economy was booming, vending machines were proliferating, parking meters were everywhere, and the demand for small change was insatiable. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of pennies each year. And with that kind of volume, the opportunities for errors increase. But even so, what happened with this particular penny was beyond extraordinary. What we're dealing with here is what experts call a transitional error combined with a wrong planchet strike. But it's even more complex than that. This coin was struck on a planchet that was intended for a coin that was never supposed to exist. Here's the incredibly complicated backstory that makes this coin so valuable. In the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions for various denominations because the price of silver was rising and they were looking for ways to reduce production costs. They created experimental planchets, test strikes, and trial pieces that were never intended for circulation. And somehow, impossibly, one of these experimental planchets ended up in the regular production line at the Denver Mint in 1963. And when it passed under the dies for Lincoln Pennies, it received a full strike with Lincoln's portrait and the memorial, creating a coin that combines elements that should never have been combined. The metal composition of this era is unlike any regular penny. Analysis has shown it contains traces of elements that were used in the Mint's experimental programs, but never in production coins, making it not just an error, but a piece of minting history, a tangible connection to the research and development work that was happening behind the scenes at the Mint. When this coin was first discovered and authenticated, numismatic experts were absolutely stunned because they had never seen anything quite like it. The weight was off by a significant amount. The color had a distinctive tone that didn't match regular pennies from 1963, and when subjected to X-ray fluorescence analysis, the spectral signature showed elements that shouldn't have been there, confirming beyond any doubt that this was struck on an experimental planchet that somehow escaped from the Mint's testing facility and made it into production. The authentication process for this coin took months because experts wanted to be absolutely certain they weren't dealing with a sophisticated counterfeit or a post-mint alteration. They examined it under electron microscopes. They compared it to every known specimen of 1963 D pennies in existence. They consulted Mint records from that era, and they interviewed retired Mint employees who remembered the experimental programs, and every single piece of evidence confirmed the same astonishing conclusion. This coin was real, it was unique, and it was worth a fortune. Now let's talk about the discovery story because it's absolutely incredible. According to the provenance that's been documented, this coin was found in the most unlikely place imaginable, not in a carefully curated collection, not in a safe deposit box, but in a coffee can full of loose change that someone's grandmother had been filling for decades. Can you imagine a $47 million coin sitting mixed in with thousands of ordinary pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters covered in the accumulated grime of decades, looking like just another old penny that nobody would give a second thought? The person who inherited that coffee can, after their grandmother passed away, almost took it to a Coinstar machine to cash it in for grocery money. Imagine the tragedy if that had happened. If this priceless treasure had been run through a counting machine, spit out as a reject because its weight was unusual, and then possibly lost forever. But fortunately, something made this person decide to sort through the coins manually first, maybe just curiosity, maybe a vague memory of hearing that old coins could be valuable. And as they were sorting, they noticed this 1963 D penny that looked slightly different. The color seemed odd, the feel in their hand seemed wrong, and instead of dismissing it, they decided to have it looked at by a local coin dealer. That dealer took one look at it under magnification, felt the weight, tested the composition, and immediately knew they were looking at something extraordinary. Within days, the coin was sent off to a professional grading service. Within weeks, it was authenticated as genuine, and within months, it was being auctioned for $47 million, changing the finder's life in ways they could never have imagined. The auction for this coin was one of the most publicized numismatic events in history. Major news outlets covered it, financial networks sent reporters, and the auction house had to implement special security measures because of the unprecedented value of the lot being offered. Bidders came from around the world, wealthy collectors who had been assembling the finest era coin collections money could buy, investment groups who saw rare coins as the ultimate tangible asset, and anonymous buyers bidding by phone who were rumored to be acting on behalf of museums or ultra-high net worth individuals who wanted the ultimate trophy piece. The bidding started at $5 million, which would already be an enormous sum for any coin, but it quickly became apparent that multiple bidders were prepared to go much higher. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. The numbers kept climbing as the auctioneer's voice rose with excitement. 25 million, 30 million, 35 million. And the room was electric with tension as everyone watching realized they were witnessing history being made. 40 million, 42 million, 45 million, and finally, at $47 million, the hammer fell, and one bidder had secured ownership of the most expensive penny ever sold, a coin so valuable that it immediately became one of the most expensive coins of any kind ever sold at auction. But what does $47 million really mean? Let's put this in perspective because numbers that large become abstract and hard to comprehend. $47 million is enough money to buy approximately 150 average homes in the United States. It's enough to generate several million dollars per year in investment income if conservatively invested. It's enough to fund a comfortable retirement for not just you, but your children and grandchildren. It's enough to start a major business, endow a university scholarship in your name, or donate to causes you care about while still living in absolute luxury. For a coin collector, owning this 1963 D penny represents the absolute pinnacle of achievement, the summit of the mountain that every serious numismatist dreams of climbing. It's a coin that would define your entire collection, a piece that would be discussed in hushed whispers at coin shows, written about in numismatic journals, and remembered long after you're gone as part of the coin's permanent provenance and history. And here's the thing that should keep you up at night in the best possible way. There might be more of these experimental planchet errors out there undiscovered because the Mint's experimental program struck thousands of test pieces, and while most were supposedly destroyed, the existence of this 1963 D-penny proves that at least some escaped into circulation or found their way into hands outside the Mint, which means the possibility exists, however slim, that another one could be discovered tomorrow, next week, next year, or decades from now, and whoever finds it will instantly join the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. Think about all the coins that are sitting in old collections, in attics, in basements, in storage units, in estate sales, in flea markets, in junk drawers, and in coffee cans just like the one where this $47 million penny was found. Any one of those coins could potentially be the next great discovery, the next coin that makes headlines, the next fortune that was hiding in plain sight all along. This is why serious coin collectors never stop looking, never stop checking, never stop examining every single coin that passes through their hands, because they understand that opportunity can strike at any moment, that the difference between 1 cent and $47 million might be nothing more than paying attention, being curious, and taking the time to have unusual coins examined by experts. The 1963 D. Lincoln penny worth $47 million represents not just incredible monetary value, but also a profound lesson about the nature of value itself. Something that appears ordinary and mundane on the surface can hide extraordinary worth beneath. The trick is knowing how to recognize it, having the knowledge and awareness to spot anomalies, and having the courage to pursue authentication even when the odds seem impossibly long. And that brings us to the end of this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Coins worth $20 million, $28 million, and $47 million respectively. Each one representing a different type of minting error. Each one with its own fascinating discovery story. And each one proving that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go find every penny you own, every jar of change, every old coin collection, every loose coin in your car. or your couch cushions, and start checking because you never know when you might be holding a fortune in your hand. Look for unusual weights, odd colors, strange details, anything that seems even slightly off. And if you find something that catches your eye, get it examined by a professional because that one small step could lead to a life changing discovery. Remember, every single one of the coins we discussed today was once just another penny that nobody noticed, and it was only through careful observation and professional authentication that their true value was revealed. So don't let the next $47 million penny slip through your fingers. Start a treasure hunt today, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person to make headlines with an incredible discovery that changes your life forever.